What's going on? It's Sean from All Things EV, and in this video, we're going to talk about California's problems with power outages, the extreme heat, as well as Tesla's virtual power plant. I've asked my buddy John Stringer on the podcast to talk about his personal experience with the VPP. We're going to call it because it's easier. We're probably going to say that word quite a bit. John, welcome to the podcast. This is your first time.
Yeah, this is. So thanks for having me. I've been a huge fan of yourself as far as the club and then also the podcast. So thankful to be here.
Yeah. You've got a monster following on Twitter from the Tesla owner Silicon Valley account. You're also doing some really fantastic things with the Silicon Valley Club, the Tesla Owners Club. Maybe give just a quick snippet of where the club is at right now in terms of size and some of the things that you're doing. You just had a massive event a few weeks ago.
So I run president and founder of Tesla Owners Silicon Valley. We're located obviously out of the Bay Area, if you're not too familiar with the Silicon Valley term. So our club, we are about 5,000 members. We have over 600,000 followers across all of our social channels. And our club, we just ran our signature event probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. It was the Tesla Takeover, which had actually, we had over 1,800 paid tickets. When you include kids, ran about 2,300 people. But that event was our signature event. Again, it was just bringing the community together. We had some cool speakers come, Sandy Monroe, Andy Sly, Ross Gerber, I Won Tesla, just, a lot of Tesla Joy, Tesla Raj, kind of some locals, California locals as well. So that's kind of our main signature event. And then we also run events every month, from Cars and Coffee to beach cleanups to toy drives to California wildfire relief events. So just kind of, we're a group of enthusiasts that typically have Teslas and maybe another EV as well. But we're also, so not only enthusiasts of Tesla itself, but we're activists as well in our community. And so the goal is to always just be a light in our community and make an impact when possible.
Yeah, that's super cool. And speaking of weather, you're experiencing some extreme heat in Northern California. Actually, I think all along the entire state almost is experiencing some extreme heat. You're a Tesla owner, obviously. You've got solar as well as power walls. So maybe paint a picture for those that haven't been following and haven't been reading the news about what the weather is like right now and some of the struggles that the grid is experiencing.
Yeah, so today's actually not as hot as yesterday. So yesterday was about 108, reached 110 specifically, kind of in the Los Gatos, San Jose area, but even 30, 40 minutes from here, 115 plus, and that is just, we're in September. It's just really abnormal, and so these are hitting like record highs, and with all that, it's creating lots of pressure on the power grid overall for California. Right, everyone is essentially on using their homes, and they're at home from like 4 to 9. So it's just creating a lot of pressure. So it's just been something, and it also doesn't help too, given the fact that we have a lot of issues with wildfires. So this would be the perfect time for, unfortunately, like perfect weather for like a wildfire just to take off.
Yeah.
And so, not only with the scares with the wildfires, but just with the extreme pressure on the power grid and the extreme heat. It's just like a crazy trifecta that's kind of happening right now. And it's just, again, the whole summer wasn't even this hot. It didn't even get close to this. It's been a long time since I even remember something close to like 105, 110 in my area. I just think of Arizona every time I think of that. I don't think of California.
Yeah, it's intense. And Colorado is not seeing as extreme temperatures right now, but certainly warmer than it normally is in the month of September. We're just high 90s. When normally it's probably 10 degrees cooler or 15 degrees cooler right now, or when it's normally 15 degrees cooler than it is right now. So there's a lot of strain on the grid because of this heat. The power company, which is PG&E, is that correct? Where you're at?
Yeah, and pretty much in NorCal. Yeah, they own pretty much the whole NorCal map, even down into Central California as well.
So they're giving some advisements on reducing electricity usage. I know I've seen a lot of the headlines say that California is saying that you can't charge your electric car. Talk about the reality of that. What are they actually telling you in terms of conserving energy?
Yeah, they're pretty much just, we're getting notifications. I'm getting notifications not only to my iPhone, but I'm getting emails from other local like EV activist groups just saying like reduce your energy usage during this time. If you can, turn off the AC, or they're just giving you like a couple of examples of what, like maybe use a fan instead of the AC, just trying to reduce it because everyone is running their AC right now, or they're all home on top of all that. So what will happen is if it hits the climax or the peak, what will happen is rolling blackouts will happen. And so I think what happened yesterday, actually, we were getting close to the climax, and they sent out notifications, and then people kind of honed down on what they were doing, and we actually didn't have really many issues with rolling blackouts. There was some power outages that happened, but it wasn't like a rolling blackout issue like they typically would do. So that's the notification. So yeah, it's like even this morning it was just like, hey, another really hot day. Please reduce your usage during these specific times. So even now, like we're running the AC right now, but specifically during those times, we'll obviously probably reduce it and use a fan just to reduce the energy.
Yeah. So I read that the window is somewhere between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. That's exactly. Probably a sliding scale, but is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're not saying don't charge your electric cars completely. They're just saying don't charge during that window, right?
Exactly. It's kind of like, yeah, exactly. So like, I'm not even worried about like, I probably haven't charged my car in 2 days, to be honest, but I'm already at, I got like 120 miles. I went to Starbucks before this. I'm not worried about it. It's just more of like, worst case, I can wait till 10 o'clock, go to a supercharger or use my home to charge the car. But it's just like anything else, you just adjust. Obviously, it'd be different if I had to drive someone very far, but for the most part, most of your driving is just local errands. And so if you had a full charge, even this weekend, you'd be fine.
Right. So are you plugging in after that window is done, or you're just not plugging in at all?
For me personally, I'm just not plugging in at all. Just like I think I had already kind of planned for these huge heat waves coming. So I'm just kind of waiting for probably to get lower on the battery, and then I'll plug it in. So probably sometime tomorrow. Just depending on obviously the heat. Yeah.
I believe it was recently that Tesla and PG&E announced this beta program called the Tesla Virtual Power Plant.
Tesla, Power Plant, exactly, VPP.
I was going to say Power Grid, but that was not the right thing. So the VPP, explain what that is and who that applies to, because it's not every Tesla owner that this applies to. Who can take advantage of this program?
So one, obviously, you have to have Powerwalls. Two, you also have to be a PG&E customer, and I think Southern Edison's doing it too for the people in LA. But you actually have to apply. So I had to go get my account number, my meter number, and then they let you typically know within 24 hours whether you get on. So once you get enrolled, it was actually a pretty seamless process. Like right now, let's say my AC's running, I'm actually receiving that power from the grid, but what's happening is the solar that I'm consuming, or not consuming, that I'm intaking right now is powering my Powerwalls. So it's charging them up so that during this period from 4 to 9 or 6 to 9, whatever they decide, I'll be sending I have 2 Powerwalls, so that's going to be 27 kilowatts back to the grid to just offset essentially the huge excess in usage that's happening during this time. So I'm helping them out by also reducing my own personal usage, but also too sending all of the kilowatts that I've stored on my batteries. So those are kind of the requirements. Like you can't, if you have solar, like for example, you can't send anything necessarily back to the grid. It's literally everything that's been stored on your batteries, and then you're sending it back.
Does it start sending that power during those time frames, or is it continuously throughout the day, 24 hours a day?
No, yeah. So it's during those specific times. Like, so for example, you actually opt in. So I can actually opt in and opt out of this event. So they just call it an event. So this event's going to be about 6 hours, and it actually tells you. It's kind of cool in the app. There's about 3,600 homes, and it tells you essentially how much they're going to be able to send back. Like, there's over 1,600 kilowatts that are going to be sent back through these 3,400 homes. But yeah, so it's a very specific time, and then the rest of the day it's essentially charging the batteries until it hits 100%, and then from there, during that specific time, it'll send it back to the grid.
Now, as I understand, I think it's really cool, by the way. As I understand it, the reason why this is an issue is first of all, because of the high heat. It's not because everyone's plugging in their electric cars at the same time, and it's straining the grid. It's running the air conditioner. It's people coming home and doing all the other things that they typically do throughout the house, and that creates that particular strain. Now, the way that this appears to work is that they're actually paying you some money to participate in these events, right?
Yes. So yeah, they're paying me $2 per kilowatt. So I'll send a total of $27. I have a total of 27 kilowatts for my two Powerwalls. Each Powerwall is about 13.5 kilowatts. So you multiply that by 2. What is that? 54 or something like that. Yeah, 54. So I'll be making about $54 during that window. Now the thing is like what I don't have calculated off the top of my head is, instead of, because what I typically do is when my house is being hit with the sun, typically I'm self-powering my house, right? You know, but instead I'm actually using the grid right now, for example, to run the AC. But I assume that I'll be making more money during this event than it was to charge and actually use the grid, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's still TBD because it's still very new, but I think the $2 is more than enough money to cover whatever I used for the day to charge my my Powerwalls instead of self-powering myself.
Right. Okay. Got it. It's really interesting, and I remember where I was going with this thought earlier. The reason why this is an issue is because California is producing quite a bit of solar power, and as that sun sets, the grid has to transition to, I guess, fossil fuel power from peaker plants, but they will typically not have enough power to support everyone running their ACs and all the other things that they do in their home. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I mean, the what you want to think about is, like, for example, like my son had baseball practice yesterday. It was 108 at like 4 o'clock. I'm not even going to send him to practice. I think some kids unfortunately still went, but probably should have been canceled. But I decided to just not even send my son because I don't want him running around in that. So you not only have people running their ACs, but you also have kids not going out and being active. And so everyone's home probably, you know, watching TV, watching their screens. Or maybe hanging out, and so you have more and more people just because of this huge heat wave. They're staying home. They may even be going to the malls or just areas with big, that where they can kind of cool down, if that makes sense. Like, they don't even want to be outside. So it's not just like running ACs. It's just more of like, it's not even healthy to be outside or like running around in this type of heat.
Yeah. People don't want to be outside because
of
the extreme heat. Yeah, so they're inside. They're using all the systems, and a lot of them are powered by electricity.
Yeah, and partially to answer your I think one of your points on just your last question is that yes. So obviously during the day, there's a lot of solar that's coming from California. I don't know exactly how much solar is actually being self-powered from what California itself has set up. I just know that they don't have enough battery storage to offset what's going to be used once the sun goes down, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's why they're trying to get this virtual power plant. Like, I become a realtor of the energy that I've stored for the day, and I'm essentially selling it to them to use during these high volume times.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the big picture of this. So is this scalable? Number one, like, you're essentially your own microgrid right now because you've got solar and you've got power walls for battery storage for storing that solar energy. you could operate independently by yourself, fully powering your house's needs just on what you have right now. But in terms of like how does the state of California solve this problem, because it's likely going to happen every year, and the number of days in which California residents experience this is probably going to grow as things get warmer. So, what are the solutions here? You think, like, does everyone need to have? Should everyone be getting power walls to be able to have that backup power? Is this power providers like PG&E investing into utility grade energy storage? Like where's that solution lie? Is it a mixture of both?
Yeah, I think, or like all three, right? I think it's, so it's going to be more owners coming online. But California actually, I'm getting these dates wrong, but within the past 5 to 10 years had this bill that went across that every new home built needs solar panels. But that doesn't guarantee you to have power walls. That's the kicker here. So I think it's going to be not only more people getting power walls and batteries to store that solar for the day and for, the nighttime, but it's going to be, like PG&E, Southern Edison, investing in additional, more probably solar panels, but also mainly battery storage. Because if they're not able to store enough in these crazy circumstances, then we're going to have more and more issues. Being in the area that I'm actually in, like kind of an area that gets like rolling blackouts, probably 7 to 10 days a year. So that's why I got power walls. And so like last night is a perfect example where I started hearing that a rolling blackout might happen, and I actually halfway through the event I opted out to keep enough storage to get me through the night, to make sure that if I hit the rolling blackout that I still had power, because we have young kids, like a baby 7 months old, like I need power. So and want my fridge going. So it's just one of those things where it's going to be kind of a couple things. It's going to be people themselves getting solar plus power walls, or if they have solar, getting the power walls. So I think Elon said, by year end, they'll start selling batteries that by itself again. And then it's going to be, these companies like PG&E and Southern Edison investing in actually getting battery packs as well.
Yeah, I seem to recall some power providers in California investing into the mega packs. I think they're called the utility grade. So is PG&E a part of that, or have they already done that?
Yeah, I believe it's them. I believe it's they have a huge plant out in Moss Landing, I think it was, and these huge mega packs, like it's like a whole, like just, I think it's like several acres, if not miles, but just like literally they bought just like acres of like land, and they're putting these mega packs, but they're going to need more, right? I think Elon said to what it's going to take a corner of Utah or a corner of Texas just to like power the whole U.S. As far as battery packs go. So I think if possible, I think there just needs to be a lot of upfront investment on this, especially also too, I mean, even if you look at what our climax is today from a grid perspective, as we hit 2035, there's going to be even more usage, especially with charging and all that other stuff. But it's one of those things where we need to invest now for it if we want to be prepared for this thing happening in literally 13 years from now, right? Where no more gas is on the road.
I'm reading a headline here from Electric from April 18th that says that their project is 730 megawatt hours of capacity that's now running with PG&E. So clearly that's not enough. I'm curious to know what they feel like is sufficient enough to help avoid these potential blackouts and rolling blackouts.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened even with, I guess maybe there was a different issue, but you maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. Even what happened with Texas and the whole freeze over there, right? Like everywhere needs this, right? You just need this backup in case, something crazy that, the climate's changing. Clearly, I mean, Austin never had a freeze over like that. Here, we're seeing crazy heat. Europe's seeing crazy heat. So, a lot of these states need to start building and putting money into this infrastructure to just, have these battery packs to get us through whatever may come.
I think it's also so. I mean, it's a really fantastic solution because it's immediate power from these megapacks and power
Yep,
walls. It's immediate
exactly.
power that so you don't have to spin up a peaker plant, which takes time. Like if you're running a peaker plant off of natural gas or coal, it takes time to power that up, and then by that time that it's ready, there's already power issues. So I think the batteries are a really good solution, not just for extreme weather like this, like what we saw a year and a half ago in Texas and what we're seeing in California and other places, but to me, this seems like a good solution for um, this proliferation of electric vehicles, which we're both a part of, helping spur on. Um,
Hmm.
you know, the critics of electric vehicles say that how can California ban gas vehicles by 2035 and require everyone to get an electric car if they're having these types of problems? Well, I think, tell me if you agree with this, John, that the solution is scaling these megapacks.
Yeah, easily, right? I mean, there's parts of the Mojave Desert you could just throw these things, these huge things, and probably not spend too much on per acre and just throw a bunch of them. But yeah, especially as we think ahead, like I'm hoping our government officials are thinking that way because as we deal with things like today, not everyone is going to want to turn off their AC when it's 110 outside, or so I think we just need more and more people, or really our government officials, to really be thinking about the scale and where we're headed. Like, what is the projection for us in 2035, having more and more cars, EV cars, come online, and whatever that projection is, making sure we have that plus 30-40% more, in my opinion. Like, you just want to have more, be prepared as we scale and kind of transition from gas powered cars to EV powered.
One of the things that I think will help, and this is something that I talked about in a video, a couple of videos ago that I published, is the Inflation Reduction Act bill does a lot for incentives for not only residents but also power providers to install stationary storage. So you're getting a tax rebate essentially if you invest into this. Not only for power providers, how I understand it is it's not just a stationary storage, but it's also solar and it's also the property that those things go on. So there's tax incentives for that. There's also tax incentives for residents to install solar, which has been in existence, but now you can invest just independently. You can do stationary storage and still get tax credit. Previously, my understanding is that they had to be coupled together, solar and stationary. So, I think that from a federal level, there are some things that the government is trying to do. I would imagine that as well, the state of California probably has some sort of state funds that they can release to power providers to help avoid a state of emergency
Yeah.
for these situations.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that I dealt with this past year, and again, it used to be able to buy, I think, the power walls separately, but when I was getting my solar, I was thinking, should I get this power walls? Should I not? And they were saying that you can't buy them separately and eventually get the tax credit. So I think this is the final year from the feds. You get up to 26% back, and then it drops to 22 or 23%. So you have to couple, at least from a Fed rebate perspective, you have to couple them together. But I'm totally fine with that, given I was already dealing with rolling blackouts. So this was kind of already becoming, it's crazy to think that, but it was already becoming a normal thing because of the wildfires. So once the wildfires happened, they shut everyone's power down, but I'm still able to have my lights on even during the day. So, yeah, I think, the feds are doing a decent job, but I think they may need to change it just from, let's say, solar. Let's say I just want to buy power walls. They should probably be inclusive of that as well. It's just including batteries and packs that can kind of, again, store energy that way.
Yeah, yeah. My understanding is that's one of the appropriations in the bill is that you can independently buy stationary
Oh, that's
storage.
great.
Yeah, and I believe that the solar incentive is kicked up to 30%. So
Oh,
yeah,
I need to go
yeah,
buy more solar.
right, yeah, yeah. So I believe that kicks in next year, 2023.
Oh, okay. Maybe I was just thinking the legacy one because I just got my solar
Correct.
last year, and yeah, okay. That's man. I should. Well, I'm glad I didn't wait because we're dealing with this now. But that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's even more incentive to go get solar and power walls as well.
Yeah. So on that note, you've got two power walls right now.
Yep.
Do these instances where where the grid is being strained, is it spurring you on to consider buying more? Can you add more to your house if you wanted?
Yeah, so at least the way it works with Tesla specifically is they're independent systems once they're installed. So if I were to get another one, which I would consider depending on kind of how I'm probably good for now, but if things just continue to get worse and let's say my power walls aren't enough to help me get through a day and a half worth of power, because the good thing is every morning for the most part, other than during the winter time, you get more sun, so you can continue to just charge that. But I definitely would consider it. I think as of right now, I'm probably fine because again, I kind of anticipated I didn't anticipate these crazy heat waves, but I anticipated just living off the grid as much as possible.
Yeah, so right now what you have will last about a day and a half, 2 days.
Yep.
You know, you could add more and last, 5 days, 7 days.
Yeah, exactly. So it all just depends on your usage, right? Because I think if we just keep our house, like if I just turn off the AC, like I think we're only using like zero point 0.5, zero point 0.6, zero point 0.7 kilowatts. And so I think again, based on that usage, we can get by 2 days even if the sun doesn't come out. And so definitely, I think as we potentially need to charge the car and other things. And as we eventually, waiting on the Cybertruck. So once the truck comes, we'll be a full EV house. As of right now, we still have a gas, which we literally don't drive at all. But we just need two cars every now and again. But we're waiting on the truck. So once that happens, there's definitely an opportunity to potentially upgrade. But that would have to be an independent system. So even me buying the system, I wanted to buy it with room of increasing, going into a full 2 EV house as well.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, I think that's probably a good opportunity to wrap up the conversation here. Is there anything that we didn't cover about Tesla's VPP that you think we should discuss?
Um, No, I think just generally, just to kind of summarize it, right? I mean, you just apply, you get in, and really, they give you a warning every morning saying like, hey, you can opt into this event. You're automatically opted in, but you can actually opt out. And so, what it does is instead of going from like self powered, it just starts making sure that hits 100%, and then when that event happens, again, it's sending everything back to the grid. And it's kind of cool. It's a cool visualization. It tells you how many other homes are turned on and how much combined is going to be sent back to the grid from that fleet. So it's got some really cool visualizations just to see, like, again, how much is coming from the sun, and then how much is going to be essentially sent back to the grid as well.
Yeah, it's very, very fascinating. And I think that there's such a great opportunity for power providers to scale this, but Tesla's got a huge opportunity here. I mean, they're really capitalizing on climate change, and this huge pain point of people needing to like live their lives and operate their businesses while we're experiencing more extreme heat.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it's pretty insane to think when you think of Tesla in general, just like how forward thinking they were. Like, who would have ever thought to be able to, when you're creating this power wall, to eventually send it back to the grid? I mean, I actually, when I bought these power walls literally just a year ago, I wasn't even really thinking about that. But it's crazy that it's already in a lot of ways just plug and play, right? Once it's installed, you just got to apply, get into the VPP, and then you can start being a part of the program.
Yeah, incredibly insightful. John, thank you so much for joining. If people want to connect with you online, where can they find you?
Yeah, I think TeslaSiliconValley.com if you're local in the Bay Area, or Tesla Owners SV on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook as well. So we're all over the place, but feel free to check us out.
Awesome. All right, John. Well, good chatting with you, and talk soon.
Of course. Thank you again for having me.
Yeah, you bet.
See you.